Hey everyone, welcome to another session of Conversations with Courageous Cancer Warriors. Today, I have to tell you that we have the most amazing guests coming to us from across the pond. I'm so freaking excited. So we have Miss Dawn Hooper Hayes. Now, she is a psychic surgeon, and this whole world is so fascinating. I know that a lot of you are like me, where you believe in energy work and being able to really tap into your soul. And that's exactly what she does. So she has started a community called MBK Community, where training, where she helps clients heal trauma is probably the best way to say it. And she has developed this course called Dare to Change that is absolutely life-changing. I have gone through it, and I have to tell you, after 15 years of personal development, I was blown away by the amount of work that was put into this course. Every single nook and cranny that you need to cover is in this course. So at the end of this session, we're going to talk about a special discount code that's available to our listeners here today. But let's just get started. Dawn, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so very pleased. I'm very excited to be here.
I am absolutely thrilled to have you on, because what you are up to in the world is so needed. You know, I find that people wait until they have a major life trauma like cancer to start getting into healing themselves, right? But we have such baggage that we carry with us that we don't realize. So tell me about how this all started for you and how you got to where you are now.
So I started when I was about 18. I got into healing then because my mum was in that kind of world. So that was taking us back into the 80s, because even though I don't look it, I'm early 50s. So there was nothing around. So I actually taught myself how to heal at that point. And after going to Hong Kong for 5 years and thinking that I'd actually really come away from it, because I was only young, all I wanted to do was party, I ended up taking it all with me and sorting everyone out and, teaching people how to heal, how to look after themselves. And this process carried on and carried on. And when I came back to England, I actually needed to sort of express myself and expand myself a bit more. So I hooked into Reiki and became a master and started teaching like that. And then I met a lady who actually taught me how to do psychic surgery. Now, psychic surgery in itself sounds a bit odd, but it is amazing. So rather than just doing hands off in the aura healing, you basically cut in and you clear out the rubbish. And the more you look at someone, the more you can see what they're carrying. So what I generally do is literally work through the bodies, but work for the chakras as a general rule, and actually cut out all of the dents, the colours that shouldn't be there. There's objects that you get in there. There's hooks that come in from, people that have been tied into relationships and circumstances. And I cut them out and I fill them up. And sometimes I send them on their way and I don't see them again. The most times I generally see anyone is 4 sessions and they're done. Now, I've done this for years, and actually changes I've seen on that is phenomenal in itself, are phenomenal. But I got to the stage where I knew that I was maintaining them really well and taking them back to a level. However, I wasn't changing their patterns, and the patterns allow for now I remember a lady who had a brain tumor. Now, for years I'd actually kept her and all this in abeyance, and then she kind of went off and and she did her own thing, and unfortunately I kind of lost her in the end, but I think if I'd have actually stayed with her, I may have helped prolong her life, but I can't tell that really. But what I think, if I'd been able to give her what I've got here now, that would have made a massive difference, because all of this starts from when we're young. So,
right, exactly.
It doesn't happen from your circumstances, from, divorces or whatever. It all starts
right.
from young.
And that's why I am so fascinated by this conversation. So first and foremost, like, congratulations on being a Reiki master. I'm a level 2 Reiki, and I know how much work goes into becoming a Reiki master. I mean, folks, if you haven't had the opportunity to look in how much hours go into this, like, it is truly a craft. It is truly a gift. It is something that it just doesn't happen overnight. Um, and I agree with you. Like, it's not a common conversation to kind of sit there and think about, oh, what trauma did I go through in my life that I didn't even realize is trauma, right? Like, we usually wait for the big things, like you said, like divorce, cancer. I'm really clear that if I didn't have started the work, 10 years before I got diagnosed, that when it came time to me getting a diagnosis, I probably would have been a basket case, and I probably wouldn't have been so level headed in like, okay, this is what we need to do. And I find that that's what a lot of people struggle with, um, is just getting over that trauma. So we talk about a lot about, keeping a positive mindset. And I'm a firm believer that the mindset also comes from your energy and like your auras, like you're saying, your chakras. So talk to me a little bit about the work that you do with people. So if I came to you and I'm a breast cancer warrior, I'm still, I'm done with treatments, but I know I have emotional baggage, because we all do, no matter how much work we do. Like,
Exactly.
what would be one of the first things you would have me look at?
One of the first things, well, I go to the program now. I try to get people to work with the program first and foremost, because I think, look, there's a process. We have thoughts that connect into emotions, which connect into vocal language, which then connect into behaviors. It goes round and round and round in a circle: thoughts, emotions, language, behaviors. And it's been going on like that since you were a child, since you were little. And then it grows and grows and grows. So until we actually start changing that process, which I think is probably the most prevalent thing that we need to change, then nothing's going to change, because whatever happens is your thoughts will then evoke an emotion which make you speak in a certain way, which make you end up in the same situation. So how can you change? How can you change? You have to change it. So we have to start in a place. Now, often I will teach people how to clear their minds. So that's quite a bit of mindfulness. And so we sit back and we start to look at your thoughts, rather, because often, you hear someone talking to you, don't you? It's not like, someone will tell you, it's like you've got someone in your head that gives you like your thoughts, but actually we have to take a bit of space back and start visualizing our thoughts and allowing ourselves that space and disconnect from the thoughts. Because once you manage to do that, because our focus is our reality, you're actually then deterring from what then kicks in, which is your emotions. Okay. And then some people really find that that's the best route for them to go, and other people aren't. Some people say, I don't think, but that's rubbish, because you know what, our thoughts go round and round and round. They clone. We probably don't even think about them until they've been round our heads at least 25 times. And all of a sudden you're thinking kids, dogs, food, run, whatever, and you've got it all running round, and it's all rubbish. You actually don't even need all that. You need clear space. And then, so yeah, agreed. Yeah. So then we've got the other bit, which is the emotions. So I like the emotional bit. The emotional bit's a bit harder, because what I do is I teach people that actually we don't just sit in emotions, we sit in moods. Now, when you're younger, things get thrown at you, and I like to think it's energetically. Yeah, so you're in a playground. Do you call them playgrounds in America?
Oh, we do, yeah.
Yeah. I know, because sometimes my friends said, make sure you put, not local. Use everything. Use international. But yeah, we in a playground. You've got kids chatting and playing and whatever, and kids don't think twice about saying, "Oh, you look ugly," and put your big nose, do they? Like, they don't think about things like that. And if you're a little bit sensitive, you'll take that on. And that's how it all starts. And also things that we say to our kids as parents, we don't often actually think about the consequences of what the child gets from that and how they actually take that conversation. And parenting is a whole different issue. You know, kids are so difficult, and I would never do it again. Given the chance, I'd never do it again. But I have two boys, so I do have that knowledge of how hard it is. And even both my boys are teenagers now. And even now, I'm now doing retrospective clear up to try and make sure that actually when they hit their sort of like proper adulthood, they're very clear-minded and clear with their emotions, and it's difficult. And I wish I'd started this with them at least 10 years ago, you know. So we take on what from day I'd say from at least 5 to 6, we take on what people say to us, and we take it on, and we take it on, and we take it on. Now, often what happens is we get a chink in, I like to say we get a chink in our armour. So then you get that allowance for people to bully you, because perpetrators will see that chink, and then that thing gets bigger, and then you get disturbed by things that happen to you, and you could be, you know, you'll end up being sort of, I don't know, living in a little bit of frustration, or maybe living in a bit of depression and anxiety. Anxiety for young people now is horrendous. You know, it's so massive that it starts so young nowadays. Like, whereas our age group, I know you're a tiny bit younger than me, Laurie, but our age group is, you know, it's only been over the sort of last 10 years or so that anxiety and depression has been so big, you know. But what happens is we tend to sit in these moods, but we don't realise it. So the whole part of this course is actually to allow you to realise where you sit and why you sit in it. Now, often what happens is you could sit in a couple of moods like frustration. Mine used to be frustration and depression, so I'd go between the two before I got divorced. But I think they've been there for quite a few years. And so I'd sit in those two moods and be quite unhappy a lot of the time. And then something would happen, and then I'd be really angry. And that comes in at a flash, and it comes in for no reason as well. You know, we get really anxious and angry over nothing, yeah? And so the trick is to kind of like peel back and go, right, okay, so I'm angry. Did I really need to react to that person, or is it something else? And almost like have a little peel back and see what's underneath, because you can guarantee what's underneath has a meaning for you, and that's generally where you sit. So we work through on our program, we work through where you sit and why you sit there. Now, I'm not necessarily bothered about why you sit there, but you'll know why you sit there, because every single emotion has a reason why you're sitting there, but it also has an action to why or how you can get out of it. You know, and once you start taking those actions, you actually start making movement, and the emotion itself starts to disperse. So then your body starts to get space in itself. So your thoughts are calmed, your emotions are divided and dispersed. So you've started to knock down that ring that we had, that process. And it's not a spiritual process, but because people know that I'm a healer, often they say to me, well, this is spiritual, and it has a belief. It doesn't have a belief. This is actually what happens within our bodies. You know, we sit in these emotions, we have these thoughts, but no one's ever told us how to let them go. But I believe that what we do now, what we do within this program, and what I do is allow space in the body and allows you to recreate you. You know, and I remember 10 years ago, it must have been 10 years, maybe a little bit longer, and a lot of the gurus, a lot of the main people that are out there, all saying, you know, you just got to let it go. How? I just think, how? Don't just say let it go. Tell us how you do it, you know. And I know from this that actually we spend the first 3 lessons clearing out. So we do the mind, we do the emotions, and then we work on your self-belief. And the self-beliefs are all about muscle testing, because again, everything's held in the body. Yeah.
Right.
So if you have like a massage or something, then you're actually in a position that a lot of stuff comes out of your body, a lot of toxins, a lot of emotions, But if you don't, you end up, it all being held up somewhere. And if your body's not free, there's a great belief behind the fact that actually we can get ill from this, and whatever, we don't feel that freedom, and we don't have that psychological freedom, and we can't create our own happiness,
Right.
and actually this is the steps to where we go. So it's the thoughts, the emotions, and the self-belief. So within the Dare to Change, we actually teach people how to do, and it's really simple, and you could find it on YouTube, but actually it's all part and parcel of what we do. So it all kind of packages in, and then we get to the point of actually doing a rebuild. See, when you clear your mind of thoughts, if you're a yoga, do you do yoga?
I do.
Yeah, so when you do yoga, I assume you meditate as well, don't you?
I do, yeah.
So you go to the space where they call it the no mind or the no void, and actually it's really empty there, and there's not meant to be any visualizations. It's just clear, and it feels really peaceful. Yeah. What we do is a practical sort of 10-minute tool that you do daily that actually clears those thoughts, because between the thoughts in your mind, currently they're all twisted up and they're all on top of each other. And the more you can release your mind, the easier it is to create the space within those thoughts. And within those thoughts, that's where peace resides. And that's why so many people do yoga and so many people do meditations. But a lot of people don't actually understand that, and we go and do it because we feel good, and we understand that we feel good and we feel peaceful, but we don't actually realize it's because we've created that space in our mind. Peace doesn't come from the heart, peace comes from the mind. And unfortunately, we've spent a lot of years actually allowing our mind to take control of us and our emotions, and hence why we're all full of us stuff. That's what I'm going to call it, because it is stuff, and it's stuff that actually we didn't know how to kind of get rid of. So so if you came to me and you were a cancer patient, I would work first with getting rid of your stuff.
Absolutely. And part of the cancer journey, one of it, like everything that you said is spot on. And what it made me think of is part of what we deal with is that we are so angry, right? We have this anger within us because it's like, why me? Right? It's very few and far between that people are like, yeah, you know what? I know this might happen, but so what? Right? Like most of us are like, why me? I was doing all the right things. I was doing, and there's such a stress level around it. There's a stress of just knowing that your life is forever changed, but also the fear of reoccurrence. Like there's so much stress that goes around it, that we talk a lot about, mindfulness and how to ensure that you really just heal yourself and take care of yourself. And that's exactly what you talk about. I believe that language is your reality. So I also tell people, stop saying X, Y, and Z against yourself, against other people, against, if you look for the bad, you're going to find the bad.
Sure.
And I think that's an easy place to start. And I hear that in your course of if you say that I'm terrible at basketball, and no matter how much you practice, you're always going to be terrible at basketball, right? Because you're not giving yourself any space to be great at it. And I think it's true for healing. I'm never going to get rid of this. I'm never going to change. I'm never, ever, whatever. Really, really defines the path that you go down. So I love hearing that where you sit and what your thoughts are, and you said you're wearing what, I think is what you had said, where you're sitting and why you're sitting there is truly key to getting beyond, to be able to change the pathways, to be able to change the habits and get yourself to a new spot. And the other thing too is that you're absolutely right. People don't realize that yoga is meditation. It's why you feel good. It's it's the sound of the room and the music, and knowing that you're in a safe space to be able to just receive. So many people don't allow themselves to receive, and it's okay, right, to be where you are.
But you know, that receiving point you talk about, when you actually find that peace or receiving, as you class it, which is very, very true, and it's how a lot of people look at it, you know, that's where things change for you.
Yeah.
Because in that space, because you feel peaceful and you feel like you're receiving, that's when good comes to you. But also, it's, you can't feel anything but that peace. So when you're holding that, you don't feel anger, and
Right.
you don't feel frustrated, because you can't, because you're sitting in that space. And that's when you know, when you started making your shifts. And especially if you can take that receiving mode and all that peace into your everyday life, then that is massive. It's such a massive thing to be dealing with, because you cannot hold any kind of negative emotion if you feel peace or if you feel happy. You know, if you feel something else, you can't hold it, you know. And that's so important. You know, one of the other things we deal with as well is we deal with boundaries, which I love. I mean,
Absolutely.
gosh, you know, that's the amount of times that I have a conversation with people around boundaries, and you know, these behaviours that we put into place, and you can guarantee that the boundaries are always being overstepped or never what you're happy with. And I think once you take, I like to think that we take control and responsibility for our own happiness. Now, once we've done that, actually your body almost falls into line with a healing mode anyway, because you're in that peace or in that receiving mode, and you automatically are clearing space, and everything else around you, all the standards will change. You know,
absolutely.
And you see those things, you see your toxic people, you see the people, and often you shift out a lot of things because they're not very good for you, because all you want to bring in is actually stuff that's going to actually benefit your self-esteem and your self-worth, which you know, normally we just roll with it because that's what we think our lot is. That's it, we've got what we've got. But actually it's because we don't take control of it or take responsibility,
right?
You know?
And I am definitely a people pleaser, and it has taken me many, many, many years to recognize that I am, but also to have it be okay to set up boundaries. Because in my mind, if I wasn't people pleasing, then I wasn't being a good human toward people in my life, and that I was being selfish. Like, I had the conversation that boundaries are selfish when they're actually not. They're quite healthy for you. So I spent a lot of my 20s and 30s people pleasing and never putting myself first. And it took me an incident like getting sick, where I was incapacitated for a while. I had I had a 16-week recovery where I needed support for 16 weeks. And it wasn't until that moment that I realized, one, I'm awful at accepting help, because I'm usually the person that gives help, because it puts me in a position where I have to automatically be loved. I'm helping you. How can you not love me? And knowing that that's where I was, it was really interesting to be able to see then how, like, I was still helping other people instead of receiving help. And I promise I'm getting around to it, like, because it's so present and alive for me. Like, I'm reliving it right now, that in that moment I wasn't even able to do half the stuff that I was trying to do, but I was doing it because I was such a people person, a pleaser, that I would put my own health, and I would have health setbacks, because I'm like trying to do stuff when I couldn't even open a bottle of water, right? Like, my butt should have stayed on the couch and not have tried to do X, Y, and Z for somebody else because I was looking for their acceptance.
And did that make you feel resentful?
Now looking back, I didn't see it at the time, but looking back, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, why am I wired that way? What the hell? Like, here I am, I'm the one that needs help and I'm worrying about you. Like it now looking back, it makes me very angry, even though like anger is not my thing, right? Like I work through it, but I have a more difficult time now being with it because I didn't realize at the time how I was being. Then while I was going through it, because my mindset was, no, I need to be the helper. I need to be the one that's supporting other people. So that's why your work is amazing, and it's so needed, because part of the battle that happens with, we'll just say, emotions and who you are and how you get through life is the lack of awareness. It's like you're not aware that you're doing X, Y, and Z until somebody either points it out, and then half the time you cut the person out of your life because you're like, who are you to tell me that? Or you find yourself in a position where you have your own setbacks that you are having a hard time to recover from.
And this is the problem. I find that, and we've said this earlier, that most people don't look for alternatives until they're in a crisis. You know, and we can't work like that anymore. We have to be proactive to make changes to our lives, because too many people are suffering. And you know, I think for your listeners, cancer is traumatic enough as it is, without having to then worry about the emotions and everything else that come with it, and then your boundaries and your self-belief and your self-worth. You know, like if you can get yourself into a place where you can create and be responsible for your own happiness, it's so much easier. Everything's so much easier. It doesn't stop. Now listen, I've been creating this program for, oh gosh, I reckon a good 20 years. I've been taking a bit here, taking a bit there, and maybe about 5-7 years ago, I put it together and I pushed it out, and then I ended up going for a really sticky divorce, and I put it aside and I've come back to it. But like in that time, it's kind of developed and, you know, taken on its own thing. And that's why you see different things from different therapies that I've pulled together, because I kind of think that works really well, but you don't finish it. That works really well, but that's kind of doesn't start. And, you know, that's how this has come together. And it actually gives you a journey. It gives you a journey of unraveling who you are, how you become that. And I don't actually specifically take you back to, there's no judgment, never any judgment, you know, because you know what, I've been through all of this. Even what you say about the boundaries, I'm a Virgo. I love to serve.
Me too.
Oh,
Me too.
Yeah. Serve.
Yep.
You ask me to do it, and I think,
and it's to our own detriment. Like, it is innate within us that we can't help ourselves. And then, you know, you're either serving or you're being selfish. Yeah. And it's like, I see it so much. And I had to really start having a real conversation with myself of like, why are you doing this? Is this serving you or is this hindering you? And that's really, really the conversation I am standing in now, because it's unhealthy for me otherwise. I have done some stuff in my lifetime that you would be like, really? And I'd be like, yeah.
No, I've probably done exactly the same.
You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, like, come on.
But you know what?
The amount of time.
What happens is, you know, you have to appear to be selfish, because you know, if that's your nature to serve or to give to people or whatever, you will still do it. But actually, you need to control what you do, so actually you're making it, you feel happy doing it, rather than, I always used to feel so resentful, and then people would expect it and I'd feel more resentful. But actually I'd still do it, you know. It's just such a big old cycle. But once I started putting my boundaries in place, I think boundaries is one of the biggest things, because you put them in here, you say you put them in with your parents, and then you end up putting it in with your children, and then something else shifts, and you put it in with a friend, and then you put it in with a neighbour, you know, like all the time. But once you start one shift, all the shifts ripple around you, and you have
it's all connected
constantly, of course, because it's all down to you, no one else, just you. And people think you're odd, or they think, what's wrong with her, when you start saying no. But actually, do you know what? They
It's
get
my
used to
favorite.
it.
I have to tell you now, it's my favorite because people never expect me to say no, right? They would make
Right.
plans, they would do all this stuff, they would never include me. They were like, Lori will be fine with it. Like, she's not going to care. Well, you know what? Yeah, I do care. I want to have a say. And like, yeah, I'm easygoing, but it doesn't mean I don't have a voice.
No.
And that was a huge realization for me.
Mm.
And when it comes to what I want to also tell people, because what's important, especially that is in line with your course. So when you're going through your traumatic event, you're not always thinking clearly, right?
Course.
Like you go through, you do some stuff, you know, you sometimes become a different person for a hot second, where you find yourself doing things that you probably wouldn't do otherwise, and you let stuff go, right? Because sometimes, just what I want to have people understand is like, it's okay if you allowed stuff to happen, or if you did stuff, or if you behaved a certain way, did certain things, whatever it is that you needed to do in order to get yourself through that present moment is absolutely okay. Because sometimes you just have enough capacity to handle what you're handling, whether
right.
it's your divorce, your disease, you know, your whatever trauma is coming your way, your crisis. You can only take on so much. But once you're out of that window, then you have the responsibility to yourself to clean it up for yourself, right? Like, acknowledge, like, I did X, Y, and Z, right? Let's say, like, you've never been a thief, but you went and you stole, I don't know, something out of the store, like so many people do as a cry for help, right?
Yeah.
And it's because they are at a point where they cannot handle their own reality. So they're looking for a different mechanism to just kind of go through that and handle it. And then once it's said and done and you realize what's happening, like, be okay and forgive yourself. Like, don't carry that baggage on with you. And that's why I love this course, because that's exactly
and so that brings
what
me
you
back
do.
nicely to emotions, because within emotions we do a bit around guilt, and that all comes within guilt. And what we do is we make our own standards. We have a set of rules for ourselves, and often and especially women, we are so self-critical, and our rules are so high. Do you think anyone else can reach those? And actually, we can't reach them either. So it's all about, a lot of it is about, you know, looking at how we treat ourselves and what our rules are and communication are. And that guilt fits in lovely for that, absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, it's all about, okay, so what did I do that for? Why did I do that? That's okay. We, you know, and what are my rules? I won't do it again, you know, and go back to what, you know, what you know is right. But actually, it's about, and once you can kind of step into that, and obviously with the course, we give you a sheet of how you change each, we call it emotional state. And when you get to that point, you can kick back in. You know, does it matter? Did you hurt someone? If you did, you know, you make that sort of reconciliation wherever you need to do, and then you move on, because we don't want you carrying anything from your past. You now live in the past, like 5 minutes ago is the past. We don't need to be thinking about that. We need to be thinking about us and how we live our lives.
Absolutely.
And often it does come down to the point that we're actually so very harsh on ourselves. And actually the second part of the course is all about building yourself back up. You know, so we work on the first part of the course of actually clearing it all out and showing you how to do this. And then the second part's all about rebuild, find out, you know, when we're born, we have an essence that we're born with. And, you know, you're born as Laurie, I'm born as Dawn, and we're cute, and we have our own sort of like ideals, and that stays with us throughout our life. However, as we grow and as we change, we, you know, we get a set of friends and we kind of lean towards what they're doing, and we take on a few of their ideas, and then we get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and, you know, you take on their ideas, and then you move around. Your teachers put things in your mind, and, you know, your parents have got their own little beliefs and whatever, and it kind of goes like that. And in the end, you end up being someone within all of that. It's you, but you have all these ideas and opinions that other people's, but we don't know that. We just take it and carry on. And then, you know, we get to the stage where, you know, you become you know, you become maybe a partner in a relationship, you become someone that works, you become a housewife, you become something, you become a family member, you know, like life. And every time you change your life, you change with it, because you
Right.
know, that's circumstances make that happen. But
Right.
still within that is a little part is you. And we
Right.
work on bringing that essence of you back, that very essence that you were born with. And we look at that essence and bring that back into you with the journeys that we do. And then you actually have the ability to reconnect with it and remember who you are, remember what you were meant to be, and actually then build on it. So we do this identity, we create a new identity for you, and that is so simple, but it is amazing. You know, it's like
I love
how
it.
you want people to see you. You know,
Right.
and often I say to people, please don't tell me things that you are already. Like I could say I'm diligent, I'm diligent, and why would I want to say that? Because I am. I'm, you know, Virgo. Come on, you know. But
Right.
no, so I want to say I'm daring. You know, like I'm dangerous, and
Right.
and yeah, and then with, you know, because we work on the acronyms, then with, you know, like adventurous, and I'd be willful, or naughty, you know, things that you're not normally, that you can actually then generate into your life. But
Right.
because you're doing it around your name, you actually, every time you say your name, that's what you're giving off. Right, so every time you
Mm.
say your name, I mean, I know I see people, then they look at my, you know, my name's a made up name because it's part from the marriage, yeah, because it's double barreled. And when I
Mhm.
change my name, like, people are like, who the Hayes? And I, you know, it made me laugh, because I used to think, you know, that's a perception that they've got about me, and I'm really normal, you know. And but that told me where people are at and what you can actually create for yourself. So when we've done this on a face-to-face basis, you know, I've always got my people to sort of stand up and say, right, and I do it with them, because you know what, it's important. And you know, and they go, yeah, I'm this and that, and I go, not good enough. You have to say it again, because you have to say it like you mean it. And often people find it difficult, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, it's when you get to that stage where you actually go, okay, I've got my essence, and now I want to build. And so I'm going to be daring, I'm going to be adventurous, I'm going to be willful, or, you know, naughty, or whatever it is you want to be. And it doesn't matter if it seems so far off, because you know what, our focus is our reality. And if
Right.
we focus on what we want, and we're putting it out there, and we're clearing our thoughts, we're making that space, peace, and we're putting ourselves in that receiving mode, oh my gosh, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
We're
It's
gonna
amazing.
get, it's life changing. It
It
is.
is.
It's such a purposeful course. It blows me away. It does.
And that's why I'm so happy that you came on today and you shared all of this with us. Now, how can people find you?
Okay, so we're MBK Community Training, and obviously we're a UK site, so it's www.mbkcommunitytraining.co.uk. If you want to go and do the course, for your people, we've put a special code on, and they can enter it. It's just $9.99 US pounds rather. And obviously that's, I think there's about $18 for you guys,
Okay.
but and then you put the code in of Cancer Warriors, so
Oh, I
that's
love that.
specific for you. We are on Instagram, it's Dare to Change London, and but yeah, generally we're so, it's not a new program, but it's this online stuff, we're trying to get it out so it's actually global and differences can be made, you know.
Absolutely. It's definitely needed. And thank you so much for all of the work that you have done for your community, you know, within the UK, but also, you know, being able to have this available, you know, through modern technology to
Yeah,
people here in
amazing.
the States is amazing. And it's really available worldwide, which is fantastic. So for everyone listening, no worries. I will have the links and the promo code available to you. I thank you so much for taking the time today. This was
Oh,
truly
thank you for
amazing.
having me. Thank you.